So, is there anyone on for public comment? There's no one
Hand
here.
raised.
No one here, thank you, okay. So we have no public comment. So let's see, I get organized here. So the next item on the agenda is this correspondence that we had just started talking about. It sounds like to me from listening to you guys that there is some interest in possibly finding out about the training that the Skelly Preservation Services talked about.
Let me just do a quick search of
Who that is. I'm happy to reach out to them, but what might be more interesting is finding out what money, if any, is available for training.
Was that just over the transom, kind of just came in, or?
Yes, it was unsolicited. Mike said it just showed up.
Yeah, and, I mean, if there were money available, and, be interested to know what the guy who you guys have been working with on the Form Bs in Cambridge would, I imagine he knows that community too, what his views were on people who do this sort of thing.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because we only have had the one perspective over the last few years.
right.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a bad thing to see who else is out there in terms of preservation experts. So I could take that as an action item and reach out to, unless somebody else wants to do it. Either of you guys have.
Well, I'm happy to do it if you want to offload anything.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, Thaddeus. If you want to give Skelly a call and just get maybe some idea of what they would charge us for the training and what other expertise they might have.
Okay.
And if they want to come in, without charging us to present at a board at a meeting in the future, I think we'd be okay with that too.
Just to kind of hear, their pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were out in, where, was it? They have some footprint in, where is it? Hampshire. Yeah, I was just looking. Daly, Hampshire is where? Oh, Amherst. So they're out in the middle part of the state is where they've
That's what
already done some work that shows up in the public domain.
Okay, well, I'll get a conversation going with him. If he were interested in coming in and meeting with us, would we be interested, in the next meeting or down the road, or how do you guys feel about that?
I think either, the next meeting or the one after, depending on how.
Probably
quickly-
April.
Yeah, April might be better.
Okay,
Yeah, and, I tell them it wouldn't be we wouldn't look for anything longer than, 10 minutes
Well,
or so, right? We wouldn't want them to come in and take up the whole meeting or anything.
no, but prior to that, if you can ferret out what the consulting rate is.
yeah.
Well, we would want the meeting for gratis, right? We wouldn't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily want to, yeah. But if he wants to make a pitch, he should do that for free, I would think.
Right.
Or they, I should say.
Hey,
Bruce, how are you?
Hey, Bruce.
gents. Sorry to be late.
Nope, not a problem. Just getting underway, we're talking about the correspondence we received from Skelly Preservation Services. Okay, if that's good, so Thaddeus is going to contact Skelly, and then we'll see where it goes from there, if there's any interest either way. The next item on the agenda is the minutes. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the minutes. I reviewed them and sent my comments back to, we have Jennifer now as a new, I think it's Jennifer, is a new, is the new person, our correspondent secretary, or I forget what the exact title is, but she will be taking care of minutes for us. And so she's replaced Courtney, so we've covered that base without too much of a delay. Kevin?
Hi,
See you?
sorry I'm late.
Nope, not a problem. We're just getting started. We're on the third item on our agenda, which is minutes. So
Awesome.
If no one has any
To accept the minutes.
second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved 4-0-0. Okay, so moving on to the Cultural Comprehensive Plan. Bill and I attended a meeting Monday afternoon to talk about this idea. And Bill, do you mind
Sure.
maybe sharing
So-
what we saw or heard there?
The Cultural Comprehensive Plan is part of the overall master plan. The notion and idea is for the various town committees that deal with culture, heritage, to have a place in which it can sort of be a clearinghouse, so that there's not an overlap between the cultural district and the cultural council and the historic commission and the planning board. And so there was about a 2-hour discussion as to what was the idea behind this. You know, I asked a question, what are we looking for a return on investment of time, taxpayer dollars? And so it's at the moment, it's going to be a monthly meeting to at least begin to develop both a format and a procedure for master calendar development, for communication between different groups, and perhaps have a unified way in which the community brings together issues related to culture, heritage, history, those kinds of things. I asked the question, what was the relationship to the chamber? At the moment, it is simply sharing calendars. There didn't seem to be a necessity for the chamber to be at the table. But I think my position and my interest is how this can expand out to the retail people, because it is those individuals in that business that will hopefully benefit, as well as quality of life issues. And so, you know, the planning board was there. You know, clearly George has some interest in seeing that from an economic development point of view, this has a place within the comprehensive plan. So.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from there, Thaddeus, was this might be a useful forum for us to build those partnerships and alliances we were talking about in terms of the public awareness project. That this is an opportunity to be at the table with the economic development people and the cultural committee, and which could, you know, they could be allies in this idea of building a better public awareness of the benefits of historical preservation. And so I think that we need to think about what our agenda ought to be to bring to those monthly meetings, to get things into that plan that advance, you know, that goal of ours, which is to eventually get enough support in the town to appreciate what we're talking about here, and eventually maybe establish a historic district.
So what struck me was there were people around the table who were unaware of what the commission does. They were unaware of our efforts at securing a historic district, which struck me as,
Yeah,
it was an aha moment for me that, here are people who both work within the town, volunteer within the town, and blithely wander up and down East Orleans thinking that nothing will ever change.
Can I ask a quick question? In terms of who is participating in that meeting now, I think, Bill, you had mentioned planning board and cultural district.
Members of the Cultural Council, members of the
Economic Development Committee?
Economic Development. Amanda was there representing Town Hall along with the Director of Recreation and what is the other woman's name?
Oh, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
she was
She
from.
manages all the calendars and all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, Mia Baumgarten?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Mia. It was, because I know Mia, it was. I don't
Town
know.
clerk's office?
No, I don't
No.
think so. I unfortunately, I don't have my notes, so.
Yep.
And whose initiative is the cultural comprehensive plan? Who's spearheading that? Anyone in particular?
It sounds like it comes out of the town, out of the, I don't know if it's, the, town manager's office, or some department of the town, maybe, Amanda's in which department? Amanda Converse is in,
Amanda is the Public Information Officer and Economic Development Coordinator out of the Town Manager's office.
Yeah,
And I
so-
can also add kind of an answer to your question too. Within the Select Board goals this year, and again, credit to Andrea Shaw Reed for wanting to get us out of our stovepiped environment. Just as Bill, you mentioned, we can sit here in little meetings as a very productive, thoughtful group, and then you go out and you meet someone, and it's like, I never heard about that. So this is actually an opportunity that Andrea has tried to spearhead is,
Right.
let's get us together around the table so that we're all sharing, learning from each other, but also not duplicating
Right.
efforts.
yeah, right.
So, and again, Mike Salitro is also your liaison from that office. So Mike, they were just kind of touching base on the first meeting of the gathering on the comprehensive
Cultural
plan,
plan.
cultural,
Yeah.
but again, I also went to, not to take up your meeting, Mr. Chair, but the One Cape Conference that the Cape Cod Commission organizes for any and all of us that want to get together late summer. We had a speaker from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. He was a leader. And I mean, he basically urged us all, whether you're building a wastewater project, building a new fire station, or actually dabbling in, wayfinding markers,
Yep.
incorporate all of this together
Yep.
so that when people come to town, they say, they get it. There's this feeling of cohesiveness, of not only going to the beach, but like you said, going to retail. There's
It's a social fabric.
there's something that's been thought well
Yeah.
through here, and people say, I think I'm gonna go back there again. So I think that conversation, to your point though, Bill, is let's always understand, what are we here for? What's the goal? How can we get to where we wanna go?
Right. Right.
And that's a monthly meeting?
It's a monthly meeting, and, so we have 2 slots. I'm happy to give up mine, Thaddeus, if you want to attend. I do think it does dovetail nicely with the public awareness thing, so you and I can talk about that and
Yeah, no,
see
I'd
if that
love
makes sense.
to, if it's a possibility. The only other question I had, and this is just for my own education, is the cultural district, kind of who owns that, that notion or the idea or the, what, is that interdisciplinary or is it?
Ask the question again?
The cultural district.
What about it?
Whose is that? I mean, is that a chamber thing? Is it a?
No, it's, Kevin perhaps has better history on it than I do, but it was an impetus to bring attention to different parts of the community through banners, through signs, through sculpture, as to the unique characteristics of the town. And so that was one of the first things that was done, and it's got to be now 7 years ago?
At least.
Yeah, or longer.
Yeah, it's probably longer, Bill.
And for instance, last question, their social media, like who executes that?
For which, ask the question again on,
For the cultural district,
Right.
let's say take Instagram. Like who puts that content up?
So the Orleans Cultural District Committee has money that they are awarded through the Massachusetts
Cultural Council.
Council.
Right.
And some of that money is hiring a consultant to do their social media.
there you go.
And if you go on if they have part of the town website, you can look at who's there, and there's some data associated with it, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, anything else on the cultural comprehensive plan?
Can I return to the previous item?
Sure.
Not the minutes, but the,
Skelly
yeah.
correspondence.
Mike, I was wondering whether or not, and I know it was a blind solicitation letter regarding the preservation services. Are you familiar at all with their service?
I am not.
Okay, that's
not-
fine.
not,
We'll do some investigation. Okay,
And
good.
one of the interests that we had in it has to do with the training. Is there any money available if we decided we wanted to hire somebody to do training for, is there somewhere we could go to look for resources for that?
I can look into what might be available outside of the town. I don't think that the commission has a line item in its budget. I know it does not have a
Yeah,
line
right.
item for training.
I thought maybe the town had sort of a general training.
There is a
budget.
general
Right.
that I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll see what the protocol for that would be. Would it be this training specific, is it just training in general? Is the question more specific?
There are specific training items in that letter, and we're gonna talk to Skelly and find out what the cost would be and what their expertise actually is to see if it's worthwhile.
Okay.
So if it turns out that there is something there, then maybe we can come back and talk about what kind of funding.
You know, if it's a regional conference and they
There we
offer
go.
that kind of,
That's, yeah. Yeah, do you guys
efficiency
ever,
of scale.
do you ever do that? Only because I know, Cape Cod Commission oversees their DRIs, Developments of Regional Impact, that have historic components through their staff. Do they ever get all of you bodies together? I mean, that's just to me, a no-brainer, that
Yeah.
you'd all kind of share.
There's a listserv
Right.
that a lot of us are on that publicizes things like that.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I've actually not gone to any of those, but that's how we would get it communicated to us, is
Right.
through that newsletter or listserv that goes around, and anybody who has questions can ask, and it's actually a pretty useful
Right.
form.
But you've never really had a forum where you all gather with your peers
No.
and address what's going on, how you're better preserving, case examples, that sort of thing.
I mean, there might be things like that that are offered, but none of us, I haven't attended any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that entree,
Yeah. that would be
because,
useful.
I mean, anything they do is
Yeah, I
always
mean-
top-notch.
Across the Cape, we're all facing
Yeah.
issues related to the demolition delay, as an example. Yeah, the
Let me reach out to the commission.
accessory dwelling units,
Yeah.
the infill, the whole.
Yep.
One last thing, I don't know where it fits, but this issue of signage always comes up, particularly in this little de facto subgroup I'm in about indigenous awareness.
Right.
And they asked at the last meeting for me to ask here how we coordinate our efforts more effectively relative to the question of signage. And there are now specific sites that, the tension is that some folks want to put up signs and some indigenous people are very like,
Yeah.
we don't want to draw attention to this
Right.
place, and so I'm not even sure how we work that part out. But if it's appropriate at some point,
Yeah. I think that has come up in the context of our public awareness initiative, and I think we should talk about it some more when we get to that place on the agenda, because I think that is something we've talked about.
There was some recognition of just that there's going to be something on a very large stone in town about the indigenous people and all of that, similar to the preamble to the town meeting.
Oh, right, yeah, they're talking about putting a land acknowledgement.
there's going to be a dedication
Yes.
at the Veterans Memorial Park sometime in April, perhaps.
Fine.
I think there'll be significant publicity about that, and it's a beautiful marker.
Good,
It is.
Terrific.
Okay, so moving on to item number 5 is the downtown housing overlay district. Mike, I'm not sure exactly, do we have a specific piece of work we needed to do on this? Is that?
We did, this comes out of, after the initial, probably was the December meeting, there was discussion about putting on as a future agenda item to have as a conversation here with the commission. It might just be a happy coincidence that it sits on the same agenda as the Preservation Services letter. Because I think what might be useful after having an initial conversation today is looking at least the planning board and maybe the architectural review committee. We're looking at this all as one, as how, and that might have been the conversation as I walked in, how these groups can work together to have both a cohesive message that goes out to the public, as well as someone who is, especially with zoning changes here, looking to bring in a project and making sure that it meets the expectations of both what's communicated and what is in our.
How much,
bylaw.
and I should know this, how much of the overlay district falls within the old Kings Highway?
The map is in the
Yeah,
packet.
I'm looking at it, yeah.
The question I have is something similar to that, Bill, which is how many historic structures are in this?
Yeah, well, that
whether
was-
they're in the old Kings Highway or not.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a chance to go and try to figure that out, now that we can look at the maps of where all that stuff is. But I plan to do that, is to try to find out, because it will be, I'll be very interested to hear what the planning board and other folks have to say about I know that there are some that are in this, including at least one cemetery. So, we ought to be thinking about that, understanding what the implications are. I think in some ways, it's going to benefit those, because if I understand it correctly, over time, buildings with big parking lots in the front will be gone, and we'll be moving the structures closer to the street, which is, if it's an old house, that's probably where it's sitting anyway. So I think that, over time, this might be more compatible with the idea of historic preservation and how, if, like I said, if I understand it correctly. But I think that is a conversation that we should have, is what are people thinking, first of all, what are the historic buildings, resources that are in this overlay, and is anybody thinking about the impact on those, and both in terms of the use, in terms of, are they going to be adjacent now to a much taller building because we're allowing that extra height? I think there are some really good questions to ask about that. So What do you think, Mike, is a forum for that? Should we try to go to one of the planning board meetings where they're talking about this, or should we try to solicit help from them?
I'm thinking, I mean, Mike probably is closer to in terms of staff support, but I'm thinking, number one, we need to get the Attorney General approval that is still pending. For folks that may not know, is we can get all the town meeting votes on bylaws and stuff, but there is one little pair of eyes that still
Yeah,
has
we
to
know.
look at these things. They usually take 90 days, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But once we get the approval, then we're kind of in implementation mode. And I think where you guys are going is consistent with planning board, architecture review, you know, because we had a little, I just want to be kind, a little kerfuffle over the whole thing. But the whole preparation that you guys should have in advance of a project
Right.
is better. You'd rather have dialogue, as Mike said, to bring together planning board, architecture review, you guys to say, okay, what if, you know, someone came in, and I'll just use, say, Orleans Inn, you know, because it goes from the Rotary all the way to Skakit and then the tentacles out there. But say somebody did say, oh, we're a new developer, you know, hypothetical, we just bought it and we're gonna turn it into, so you will have a role in that because of the age of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just one example that I know is in your inventory. But you can go right up 28 and say, there's another one. So, but I'll tell you, the thought that we have initially is people are gonna be more concentrated on the more directly downtown proximate areas that are probably not gonna need your, you know.
Well, there is a row
Yes, right, yeah.
from Mahoney's to the light.
Mhm.
Yeah, right, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But also, you could say that, you know,
Build behind it all you want to.
And-
Try not to touch those.
Yeah.
an example of what happens when something like this is not in place is the old firehouse. So,
And
you know,
that is still on select board goals to advance, you know, a mixed use on that. So again, having this approved could put the town into a position of actually being one of the first to test out, you know, the incentives available, they call it. But I think it's best if you guys all get together, because there should not be a threat by this. If anything, it's put together with design guidelines that then allow you to put your expertise, same with architecture review, to say, so what are you building? You know, we don't need another Chase Bank. We need something that's in fitting with the style.
And like I said, I see it as
Bruce is laughing.
I see it as an opportunity, you know, because
Yeah.
I agree, I think it could be used as a way to undo
Right.
some things that,
Exactly.
you know, were not necessarily
Right.
best for what was going on.
Do we have any specific say in design guidelines? I mean, would there ever be an example where we would say, no, that's not consistent with the, you know, the.
Absent a historic district, I think the answer to that is no. I think absent a historic district, and even then, it wouldn't be us, it would be the Historic District Commission that developed from the historic district.
You know, answer is, Ed, you're absolutely right. The answer is no. However, you guys have seen when project developers come in, I was the liaison to the architecture review.
Yeah.
And although they have limited ability, believe it or not, developers actually want to make us happy. They want to make you happy. They want planning board to be happy. They want CBA to be happy. So it is amazing what they do and bend over backwards to accommodate. So I do think, even though the answer is no, believe it or not, you do have influence.
Well, the Architectural Review Committee, as I understand it, has actual teeth.
They
What
do.
they can do.
They do.
And one of the considerations they can make, I think, is historical
They can.
preservation. So maybe through them, we might be able to.
Right, I mean, all the way through trim work and molding and, you know, visual features that
Yeah.
are in keeping with whether it be a Greek revival or, you know, the different styles. But we definitely don't need boxes.
Which we're getting.
So more to follow, I think?
It is, and just to kind of wrap up and answer the question, I think where you started, I think a joint meeting of some sort makes sense, a dedicated agenda item, probably in in a planning board meeting, either one that is specially scheduled or one they, I think they meet the second and fourth Tuesday. I'll coordinate with their staff and see
Okay, great.
what makes sense as far as timing. And if there's any specific asks, we can kind of put it on their radar too, so it's not, not something that they're unprepared for.
I think you've got, besides Mike's being a resource to you, but Elizabeth Jenkins, who,
Right.
really put a lot of her sweat and equity into developing this, has some examples, but she'll be the first to tell you, no, that's not what it's saying. It is in fact asking you as a board, or ARC, or a planning board, to utilize their judgment. So I think she'll be a great resource to help guide you in terms of dispel any fear factors, but also help you know what road you're on
Yeah.
to help advance this. But I'm excited to see, number one, the thing get approved by the AG, and then let's see what starts to pop, There'll be a few.
Yeah, it might be useful, I don't know who, is it, planning board, it's George Minervi, did I get that?
George Meserve.
Missouri, yeah, he does the mapping. I'd be interested to see if we can get a map that, maybe at least one version of the map of those zones that includes the historic properties on there. It would be just to see what's in there.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, okay.
I raised at an informal meeting I attended this morning the notion of, and it gets to what we're talking about a little bit, and that is Orleans has on its bylaws that there will be limited numbers of franchises allowed in the community, such as pizzas,
McDonald's.
McDonald's, et cetera.
Formula businesses. Yeah.
Formula businesses. But I did say that as time moves on and the community looks for additional revenue sources, the kinds of high-end franchises away from food are maybe something that this community is going to have to investigate. And a lot of people there went, no, we can't do that. And I thought, we can't do a lot of things, but we can't do anything unless we do something.
So are you saying I can shop at Whole Foods or Orleans?
Trader Joe's.
Oh, so away from food, I'm just thinking, people can't afford the retail rentals downtown. The only industries that can afford the kinds of rents that have accumulated due to regulations and taxes, et cetera, are the Lululemons of the world. People don't want them, but they're the ones who can afford to come here, and they will bring people.
Chatham has Maui Gold, among others. I'm sure that we can maybe find one or two. Okay, if there's nothing else on the downtown housing overlay district, then we can move on to the CPC discussion, FY '27. I wasn't sure there was anything left over from this from last meeting. Did we have any outstanding? Did we leave any undone business from the meeting with the applications? I didn't think so.
We did, we finished the interviews, and you had discussed the applications, making the recommendations to CPC, which I think Charles delivered the following day.
Yeah, and so Charles had back surgery, which is why he's not at this meeting, and we pushed off the CPC liaison discussion and the demo bylaw discussion for when Charles can be here next month. So I don't think there's anything else on this one that we need to talk about. So we can move on to our projects that we're doing, the open items. And so I'll start with the Form B project. We agreed last time that we would make the Form Bs that we don't, that for historic buildings that don't have Form Bs, that would be our priority. And so we communicated that to Eric, so he's gonna start working on those first. So with the money that we have, I forget the exact numbers, but at $300 a piece, and we have 40,000, we can do a certain number of those, and it will not cover, I don't believe, all the outstanding ones, but it should cover all of the older properties that don't already have a Form B. And that's gonna be critical when we start getting clearer about what our definition is of a building that should come to us for demolition delay. And we're gonna try to refine that to be on the, having a Form B, basically, and on our list. And there are certain other conditions that are in the bylaw. If it doesn't have a Form B, it could still end up here. But I'm hopeful that we can make it so that nothing meets those conditions, because it's at least 100 years old, and it has some other kind of recognition. If we haven't already figured out what those are and done Form Bs, then shame on us. So I think we should be able to say that we've inventoried all of those properties, and we still have to redo a couple of hundred, I think the number is, and so it might take us 2 more years of CPC grants at the current rate of $25,000 per to finish. But this, we've got 15,000 left over from FY '25, I think it was, and then the 25,000 for FY '26. Those will all be wrapped up, and then we asked for another 25 for FY '27. So we're moving down that road, and I think we're going to be pretty happy with the end product when we get to the end of this. And MH, the Mass Historical Commission, has been putting them relatively quickly on the MACRIS database. So at one time we were worried that it was taking a year or longer to get them out there, and now it seems like they're doing it a little quicker. So I still think that's not the best website in the world, and we need to. I think it would be in our interest to find a way to make access to those available through the town site. I don't think it's storageable of that many PDFs. It's a total of like 400 or 500. Would be a big burden. We just need to figure it out.
I think the other thing that popped in my head as you described that, going on, following the housing overlay district, we could fairly easily, if we just have the listing of Form Bs that are complete with the PDFs, we could do an overlay on the GIS. It might be a little time consuming to get this individual PDFs per the address.
Yeah.
Step one could certainly be to have an overlay, kind of click, show me where we have Form Bs, which is light up in red. And if I type, click on 123 Main Street, if the
Yeah.
PDF for Form B is there, we can do those over
Yeah.
time.
So MACRIS has that, and so they have an overlay. They don't have the Form Bs directly, but they have something that points to something that has a Form B. If it has a Form B, then you can click on the PDF. But I like that. I mean, it sounds great if we can. So would that end up? That would end up on the town's GIS data somewhere.
As we've discussed, I hate to duplicate efforts,
Yeah.
but what this would do would at least house those PDFs that exist.
Yeah.
Going to have, may not have a home after the
Yeah.
website goes away. And then especially the time between Form Bs being complete and popping up on MACRIS.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at what's on MACRIS now and see how that, it might just be dumping the PDFs into a folder on the website, because if it's that size, that would not be overly difficult just to do
Yeah.
that. But
I don't
want to just dump it for the sake of, I would like it to be useful for something, because at some point,
Agreed.
5 years from now, when none of us are looking at this, let's say,
Yeah.
it'll be, this
It's
is here.
standard practice, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the GIS data structure, but it might be possible for us to have to maintain that only, Mike, until they get to the MACRIS database, and then we could, then it would be duplicated. So once they're caught up 100%, which, might be a couple of years, then we could get rid of it. All right, that's good to know.
Just around public awareness, at an information booth, it would be wonderful to have just a standalone monitor where that data just lived independently of anything else. And people could just scroll through the historic houses in town, either by street address or whatever, because all the history of those houses
Mhm.
is listed, who lived there,
Yeah.
what they were, what they looked like, all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
where
interesting.
Mike's going, if you create this as a layer, you know,
Yep.
it can be turned on for the entire town, or you can get parcel specific and dig into that.
Yeah,
So, it's a great tool. I mean, we've actually expanded it now for, believe it or not, sewer tie cards. So as people are looking for, where is my stub to connect to sewer, when you go to a parcel that's in the sewer service area, you can see your water tie card, you can see, of course, your property record assessor card. Now we're seeing sewer tie cards, but this is also.
Yeah, they
if
just
you
add the
happen
Form
to be
B.
historic, Form B
Yeah,
becomes
that's great.
available, so.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
really good.
Ed, on the Form Bs, who is the, remind me again of the guy's name of who's working on these?
Eric Dre.
Eric Tree.
Eric. Would it be possible for him to put him on the agenda of an upcoming meeting so that we could get like 30 minutes of his time just to sort of ask questions, you know, get his take, you know, talk a little bit about, you know, how, what are the benchmarks here? What is contributing historically or culturally or whatever? It just might be, I mean, I know there's he's done a lot of work, it's a lot of good work, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but it might be good for him, you know, just to give us sort of an update and talk us through some of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That's a good
You know,
idea.
we used to have a fair number of meetings where he was there when we were talking about the historic district. So I could ask him, he may attend remotely because he lives in
Exactly.
Cambridge, but I'll ask him to do that at a future meeting, either March or April.
Okay.
Just as a point of interest, was the FY '26 application approved?
The FY '26, we're in, and yes, so that's part of the 40,000 we just put out the bid.
Okay.
The FY '27 is the one that we just submitted, so we're waiting on, I don't know if they voted on those yet. But then it has to go to the town, you know, it's gotta go to the town.
Let's go to the select board tomorrow night for discussion.
Oh, okay.
Tonight.
Yeah,
Today's
tonight.
Wednesday. Thank you.
But the plan is to post it on the warrant, vote it at May 11th, is it? May 11th town meeting, and then
This
July
coming
1.
May 11th?
This coming May 11th, and then funds become available July 1. That's the start of the
Yeah,
fiscal year.
so we're covered, the current grant covers us till
June
July
30th.
1, to June 30th, and then hopefully we'll be able to keep going. So, so Eric is working on now a set of Form Bs that hopefully will be completed by June 30th.
And just as a sidebar, what determines whether it's a special town meeting or a quote, whatever it's called, annual town meeting?
Mhm. It's the window period of when the warrants open. The annual town meeting in the charter has a certain window for the annual town meeting warrant articles, and then special is like what it is. It's another lingering period in the event that there are things that we missed in the annual.
And there's always at least one annual?
There's always at least one annual, correct.
And do we
Yes.
know when the annual is?
May 11th, May 11th, this May.
Oh, I thought that was listed as special. That's part of
Well,
why
you could have both a special and an annual within the same day.
And you're, you're representing that it is an annual meeting?
It's definitely an annual.
Okay.
If we miss warrant articles in the window for the annual, and we still have items to put on, then we create what's called a special. That's, if you notice, the annual opens, if we have a special town meeting, the moderator will say, or will take a motion to recess the annual to open the special.
The only reason I asked was I noticed that any citizen warrant petitions.
Petition, right?
You need 10 signatures if it's an annual, and you need 100
100
signatures.
if it's special. Right, it's because that window is open for a more earlier period for the annual, and then the special is really meant just for a few housekeeping items, like
And they're
bills.
both open to the same end point?
No, the annual closes earlier, the special closes a few weeks later.
Okay, thank you.
The whole end result is we have to send the full warrant out to the printer, this is in the charter, by I think like April, it's.
Nine.
April, it's early April, because then you have to give everybody time to read their warrant if they care to.
Great, thank you.
All right, moving on, unless there's anything else on the Form B, I want to move on to the archaeology project. I've got a good update on this because I met this morning with Holly Herbster from PAL and Tom Karras from OCT. And we had a meeting, first of all, I could say that the project is on schedule. We had this week to have the meeting that we had to review the memo that is basically outlines the desktop survey of all of the conservation OCT properties that we gave PAL to look at, and they've come back and talked about what the archaeology has been around each of them, if there has been any. They've actually looked at all of the archaeology that's been done in Orleans and mapped that with an overlay of all the sites we gave them that we were thinking of surveying. It's really interesting. It turns out that Orleans has not had a lot of professional archaeology compared to, say, Eastham and Chatham. But we've had a lot of amateurs.
In the
Yes,
20s and
exactly.
30s.
A lot of hobbyists have gone out and sort of done things, and it's documented. It's just not documented very well. So you don't really know as well as you would from a real professional report exactly what they found and where they found it and what it means. But anyway, it was a good meeting. We went through that. We are talking about which sites to survey, and our expectation had been with the money that we had that we would only be able to afford one or two surveys, reconnaissance surveys. It looks like now we might be able to do 4 with some of the additional funds that OCT is bringing to the table and with the methodology they're using. So we're trying to sort out what those will be. I think it will be in different areas of town. So we're looking at one that's near Eastham. It's the I'm not going to remember the name of all these. The Cove. Cove, Meadow Cove, I forget what it is, it's Cove, and then there are 3 others that are located in different areas, the Kendrick properties. A couple of them have restrictions, so we're trying to sort through how that's going to work. But it was good. The project will be ongoing. I will have I actually got it later this morning after the meeting, the final version of that memo, which I will circulate, and I think we can maybe put that in the packet for next month, but I'll circulate it ahead of time so you guys can have a look at it. It's about 20 plus pages, and it's got a lot of interesting information. So it's a good start to this archaeology project.
Was Nauset Heights included in that or not?
So, yes, that's where I'm, so I don't exactly know the boundaries of Nauset Heights, and that was one of the things that I was trying to push, was that we would do something in that area. So I think this Cove property I'm talking about, I wish I remember the name of it.
It's on a different body of water. Well, it is.
It's a little bit,
Around
it's a
the
little bit,
other
yeah,
side.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
northwest, but it's in the same sort of area. What I wanted was something that was close to where the Champlain marker is, because that would be an area that he, part of the community he would have seen that was there. So the parcels that are actually in Nauset Heights are relatively small, but this parcel is good size. It's in an area that hasn't quite been on top of other archaeology, but it's interesting enough because it's close to where a lot of what's going on at Fort Hill, and there's some interesting sites up there. So I think it's a good spot, but I'll send you the memo and you can have a look, and if
Sure.
anybody has any input as far as the site selection or anything else, but we're going to choose the sites relatively quickly because we want to stay on schedule, and there's a window where we're going to need to get the walkovers done between when the snow melts and when the leaves come back. So if there is such an overlap, we're going to need to use that to get the reconnaissance sites
Like
done.
May 15th.
And just one other question. Are these sites that have had little intrusion by humans?
Yes, that was one of the criteria and that's why we were looking to use the OCT sites. They're fairly large. They're almost all of them have had no development on them. You know, one of the ones we're looking at was a camp at some point, but that's very limited, what they would have done there. As you know, the Peck property had nothing built on it, so those were within the criteria for selecting. It was, you know, that there had been no development, that it was in a place that was likely that a settlement might have happened, and that has its own criteria, like proximity to water and other sort of, you know, things that would make it a likely place where a native.
Yeah, and around Mill
community-
Pond, there's a fair number as well of properties that are interesting.
Yeah, there are quite a few in Orleans, so.
They really are. And I can add too, Mr. Chair, and again, it ties into, you know, Indian, Native American, whatever, you know, you want to refer to it as, because PAL, Public Archaeology Lab, is an excellent firm, really amazing. They have a niche, and they've been at this for decades,
Mhm.
but even through, believe it or not, the sewer work, when we've had to propose, you know, construction of lines through like Town Cove.
Yeah.
They did identify the potential for artifacts. So actually during that segment of construction, they actually had to have someone from PAL on site
Yeah,
to document any finds. And actually when we begin construction of Phase 3, which is along Route 28, there are going to be some requirements there. But when you read their reports, I mean, I just love them because they tie together, like you said, Bill, areas that humans have never
yeah.
been disturbing.
Right.
Unlike others that respected the land. Most of us, you know, I can dig here and put whatever I want, where, you know, Native Americans respected the spirits and, you know, the value of our land. And, you know, I think, you know, to the extent you can get these reports out
Yeah.
in a way that informs, they're rich with.
Well, one of the requirements that we wrote into our RFP was that they had to put together a public-facing
Nice,
report.
nice.
Because, as you know, some of those have very specific
Protected,
location information,
yeah,
and those
protected,
those are
yeah.
not public.
Right, right.
So we put into the RFP that there would be a public-facing version. We have the one from the Peck property is out on our website, and everybody loves it. It's got a lot of really good information.
Good.
I did want to mention that with, you know, we partnered with OCT on this, and that's working out great because OCT has a lot of knowledge about the specific properties that we're looking at. And so between, you know, what Holly, the archaeologist, was finding out in her research and what Tom knows about the prides, it's helpful that you know, for that selection process and just understanding what's out there. So that's been really useful. Not to mention they brought some money to the table too. So that, I think that's where we are. It's on, like I said, on schedule. So looking forward to keeping that going, and we're going to meet again soon to officially pick which sites we're going to have, and then there's a schedule of when things will happen, reports will come out, and milestones they have to meet, and eventually, ending in September, there'll be a presentation before the commission that will put the whole thing together and tell us, you know, what they've done and what they've got.
Ed, quick question on how do you define a partnership? Like when we partner with OCT, what does that mean?
You know, it's very informal. Like we didn't, you know, put together a memo of understanding or anything like that. We just said, hey, you know, we're doing this. They were interested. They had initiative going on. We said, you know, let's do it together. So it was very informal. So I would say it's just agreeing to work together and then actually seeing how that works in practice. We
How are
didn't.
the bills gonna get paid?
So it's a good question, because the RFP that went out was strictly for the CPC money. So the question came up today was how to bring the money that OCT is bringing to the table to bear to allow us to do these extra reconnaissance surveys. And my suggestion, which I was going to talk to Mike about, was that they should do something independently between OCT and PAL, because
Yeah.
they're not party to the other agreement. So
Right.
rather than amend the agreement that PAL signed with us, I don't think that's really appropriate because there's nothing to do there. I think they need to just put together an agreement separately between OCT and PAL for that money. So that's
Good thought, Ed.
okay.
And one thing, just to share, I'm also a trustee with the Orleans
Oh,
Conservation Trust.
good to know.
Where Tom comes in is, and this fits with the land management budget. As you mentioned, when lands come to OCT, they've already start with biomapping, evaluating the inventory, and, start to lay the groundwork for how does the donor want us to care for it, or how should we care for it. So this only adds to the inventory and the resource. So I don't see any problem with Tom just saying, carve out the scope for what OCT needs and, bill us for that. So it actually, you're getting essentially, two for the price of one.
Is there any cross-pollination with Orleans Pond Coalition and this kind of work? I'm just curious.
Could be. Definitely could be.
The people you were mentioning, Kevin, is that the Plymouth Research?
No, they're out of Rhode
Archaeology?
Island. PAL is out of Rhode Island.
Yeah, what does it stand for? Public Archaeology Lab?
Public Archaeology Lab, yeah. Deborah Cox is the president.
And
Just-
the work that had been done under the Plymouth group, an extensive survey, I'm a little familiar with Oak Ridge, if you know that site. That's
No.
where
Over near the
the
wastewater
transfer
plant.
station.
Okay, so yeah, there was some,
Bay Ridge.
yeah.
So whatever happens.
So
to that,
the documents are out there, it's,
Oh, yeah.
you can go find them, they're public, there's public information that's out there. I was surprised when I first started doing this, how much was out available to look at. And then I didn't understand the relationship between those reports I was looking at and our report, which had to go in an archive someplace unless we asked them to do something public. So maybe that was the same arrangement, I don't know.
It's more a question what happens to the site ultimately. You get
Oh.
this great report that documents that there were, Stone Age works there, 3000 BC.
Yeah.
And
Nothing, as you know,
Exactly, okay.
there's a high sensitivity, but in fact, one of the things that the Wampanoag Preservation Office asked us to do on the Peck property as part of their cooperation was to put a trail camera and monitor it to make sure nobody went there.
There we go.
But I think, to your, Bruce, I think some of that went to the Natural History Museum in Brewster. Some of
the
those.
reports per se.
The reports,
whatever was recovered
because
there.
David Dunford, I think, was in part of that deal. That's what, 25, 30 years ago, if not more?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot there at the
Yeah.
Natural History Museum of artifacts that were found in Orleans.
Yeah.
Some
And then
well
the-
documented and some not so much.
And then there's Mass Archaeological Society studies done in the 20s and 30s that highlight Orleans and Eastham and Pleasant Bay. And as Ed said, they're interesting, they say a lot, but they're not by standards of archaeology today up to speed, but they're great to read.
The one other thing that OCT is doing that I probably should mention is that they're working, they're coordinating with the Native American land, what's it called?
Native Land Conservancy.
The Native Land Conservancy, thank you. So we're involving them as well, as far as coordinating with the Native Land Conservancy. That's a big push within OCT, I think, to work with them.
Yeah. Yeah, OCT voted a few months ago to make a commitment, and again, the relationship is one that has to come from respect. So the Native Land Conservancy wants to see that OCT is an organization that has voted solidly to go down this path of working together. We don't flip switches here and it happens. It's a relationship building effort.
Kevin, there's a property off Brick Hill that it has about, 40 acres that runs all the way down?
All the way out to the,
Yeah.
I do.
But I was wondering, that needs to be surveyed because there has been nothing on that property ever. And it runs all the way down to Mill Pond.
Yeah.
But
It's
That's one I
private
was thinking.
property?
Yeah,
It's private, yeah.
but I think they would let you, I'm pretty sure.
I remember one year, they were on the garden tour. Do you remember the year?
No, I
It was like
don't.
7 or 8 years ago. And it's like, oh, I can get on that property. I
Not.
mean, no, you did.
Oh, yeah.
There should probably be some sensitivity
Yeah,
whenever
exactly.
places the Governor Prince when they were digging up around there.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was obviously a
Yeah, that was a
prime
mound,
site.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So that'll require.
That would be
some
part of the
Yeah.
investigation and conditions made.
The next item on the agenda is the Public Education Initiative, and I think that is, we pushed the major discussion on this off until March, and Kevin, were you going to be part of that? I think, am I getting that right? Or was there someone else that we talked about having someone come in for the March meeting, that is?
Kevin and, remind me the name of the woman who does communications.
Amanda
Amanda.
Converse.
Okay,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that would be great, I think that'd be terrific.
So we're gonna, that's gonna be a major item for our March agenda. You're gonna have something to talk about, we're gonna try to collaborate and,
Yeah, I think I sent you about 6 slides. I would just love to, sort of, in the interest of alignment and sort of strategy and tactics, kind of be able to walk through those slides and open up conversation a bit. I mean, some of them, when you look at what Skelly does, there's a lot of, what he's talking about, there's some of that in there. The kinds of consulting he does. But if you can give me a few minutes, I'd love to do that.
yeah, so we're planning on that for the March agenda, and the other, and so I'll move right on to the future items. So we're gonna talk about the demolition delay bylaw, and I'm hoping I will have some information there in terms of what we might be thinking about doing and firming up the definition of what is a historic property is, or a significant property, whatever the language is in the bylaw, and then we can talk about a path forward for amending the bylaw. So,
When we talk about that and do some research, I think the kerfuffle we got into out at Nauset Heights needs to, whatever language we insert needs to meet the sniff test of that particular.
yes, so
Going on.
Mike and I have had a conversation or two about that. I think wanting to make sure that we don't run into ambiguities on the definitions. And right now, that bylaw is asking for ambiguity
Well,
I
or
think,
misinterpretation.
as we've talked about, and just to reiterate here, having a strong review of currently what's on the books before anything gets amended
Yeah.
is very important, so we have a starting point.
Yeah.
And we just highlight where there might be ambiguities or where there might be areas for improvement. 'Cause-
Does that have to clear the Attorney General's office if we change those or not?
Mhm.
It's a bylaw, so it
Yeah.
would be similar public hearing, town meeting,
Okay,
Attorney
thank you.
General.
Mike, I don't know if you remember, I did a diagram of what I think that bylaw said, and it's that convoluted that you need a diagram. Should we run that by town council or something before the next meeting, so we get what you're talking about, which is, yes, this is what the bylaw says? Do we need that, or do you think we're okay, we can interpret? Because Charles didn't even agree with me with the way, he had a different interpretation of the same language.
That shouldn't surprise you in the least.
Thank you for adding the second part. To me, it might be best, and I'm willing to have a discussion about this, to have the commission discuss, because there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, historical knowledge in this room. So maybe have that discussion first, memorialize it, and then go to town council,
Okay,
saying this is
right.
what the commission has as opposed to individual, but tell me if you think that's appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we can, I just have, none of us, as far as I know, are lawyers. But
deny.
I did have, oh, I'm sorry, Bruce is a lawyer, I messed that up, I'm sorry,
No,
Bruce.
I'm under a camera.
Only one of us is a lawyer, let me put it that way. So maybe we can get Bruce to interpret the language. What I was gonna say was, I did have nuns teach me how to diagram sentences, which I think means I can read, but you never know from some legal documents, don't say what you think they say. And so, anyway.
Yes, the Supreme
we'll-
Court,
we'll-
they can
yeah,
interpret.
I will
it.
send you my diagram, so you can tell me if that's what,
I
if that's what the
had
bylaw
none,
says.
so-
Well, I think, just my 2 cents, because I am glad to see that the select board will never have to be the appeal authority in the future.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember that whole hearing process that we had to host. And it's like, in the old days, there used to be a book at the building. I mean, the bylaw doesn't say anything about a book. It doesn't, it's like, you know, as Bruce knows, lawyers and judges, black and white. What do the words on the page say?
That's just the
Right.
start. Then you have to
Exactly.
interpret them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right, and that's been the issue, and there's a lot of room in that bylaw for
Yeah.
interpretation,
I found the book.
I'm sure you did.
which has gotta be out of date, right, in a lot of ways, yeah.
20 years it's at it, 40.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers the agenda. Next meeting is March 11 at 3 PM. Does anybody have?
If I could, just as
Yeah.
far as future agenda, Jennifer, the
Oh, right.
new clerk for the commission had emailed before and had reminded that not listed here as a future agenda item, but something that has been discussed previously that might go on for March with succession planning, just as far as the chair of the committee. So I think that could be an agenda item we talk about next time as well.
Okay.
I just want to say for the record that Mr. Maccarelli is doing a fantastic job in his interim role, and I think he should accept the nomination
I
for
do
a more
too.
permanent position. Bill?
Second.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
That seems to be unanimous.
Well,
You're good.
yeah, all right. Well, thanks for
No,
that vote of
seriously,
confidence. I
but-
know it's because everybody else is stepping back in line.
No, you're really doing a very, very nice job, and it's appreciated. I mean it, and I think we all
Thank you.
feel it, so thank you.
So we can put that tentatively on Mike, but it looks like our March agenda is going to be pretty sizable, so maybe you and I can decide when the time comes whether to push that out a month or not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Could I get some clarity from the town hall? We now have new town council firm.
Yes.
Will there be a dedicated person from that firm, or is it going to be whoever's available when this commission may need something, et cetera?
I'll let this guy answer. I mean, I just know from the interview, the evaluation, the firm has broad capabilities, both labor, you know,
Right.
personnel,
Yeah.
you know, land, and general, you know, very responsive, but
Yes, as Kevin references, I know at the very least I have 4 points of contact for specialties, general partner, labor, real estate transaction, and procurement.
Okay.
So that's our starting point for those specific issues, but it is a firm where if something is on fire and would need to be addressed within an hour, we have the availability. Or if it is, hey, we have got a very specific XYZ question, who would handle that? So we kind of
Okay.
have
All right.
both there.
No, that's good.
I was just curious
Yeah.
because sometimes firms, becomes a Wild West.
no, I think this firm, I mean, for those that, you know, certainly know and we've loved Mike Ford, he's fit the needs of the town for, 40 years. The alternatives we had were Murphy Hesse or the other,
Yep.
large corporate one is KP Law. And everybody, in the country uses them. I was really pleased to see Murphy Hesse want to work with us and bring what they do, because it's nice to have,
They have some contextual background and understanding.
yeah, especially the legal and real estate side, in terms of her experience. Was it Conley, is it, the attorney? A lot in the town of Barnstable.
Mhm.
So she's not, just getting up to speed. She knows the landscape.
All right.
But,
Sorry to hear that Mike is not with us. He was fabulous.
Mike has done excellent. He is still in operation as special counsel.
Okay.
So there could be some things that, you know, Mike Solitro would be lead to say, hey, Mike, you worked on this, can we just keep it going? And he is
I
available.
was just always very impressed with that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Well, and, you know, I just harken back to any challenges that we've had of warrant articles in a town meeting that he wrote. Those four corners of the article, as you used to say, did the town well, did the town very well. So, but, yeah, I think none of us are getting any.
He was very accessible when I served on the zoning board of appeals, not to extend the meeting here, but he was immensely accessible, and our meetings were at horrible times.
He helped us out when we were doing the Historical District Study Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good.
If anybody's in contact with him, they should convey our appreciation.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I am and I will.
Thank you.
Yes, and we're gonna do a number of ways to thank him and recognize him too.
Okay.
We're working on
Good.
some fun things to do.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Favor?
Thaddeus, how's
Okay.
life?
Good.
You're looking good.
I'm
Not that snow glare,
Have you
though,
voted to
you know?
adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. We-